Hey, YouTube believers. Chris Matt coming at you today with Batman number 95. This is part one of the Joker War, and this was an excellent comic book. I love this variant. I think it's Francesco Mattina, I think is how you say his name. And it just really captures what's going on with this series, where you see all this fire going on, Batman in the background, Joker in the foreground, all this arsenal just under his coat, just absolutely gorgeous, and shows how Joker is really trying to shake things up. What am I talking about? Let's dive into this book, shall we? So you come to find out in the last couple of issues, so if you haven't been keeping up, check out the reviews I've done on Tynion's Batman run. We'll go ahead and wait for you. And you're back. So spoilers again. Punchline and Joker's goon squad found a way to embezzle Bruce Wayne's money. So they own everything that is Wayne Tech, Wayne Corp, Wayne whatever, even Wayne Manor. So we start, again, goes like years ago, and sometimes you kind of get tired of this trope. You're just like, why are we doing this? But the way Tynion pins this really hits hard. And here's where it hits me the hardest, first and foremost. So it says, you're thinking about them, aren't you, Master Bruce? The bodies. It's not the bodies, Alfred. You haven't been sleeping, sir. Not since the case began. I know which crime scene images you've been rifling through. Over and over, it's their faces. You've scarred them into your mind. The test subjects at the chemical plant. So we have Alfred. That's where it hits me hard, because I am not happy with the decision of what DC and the previous writer did in the City of Bane. That was unnecessary and just really hits me to the core. But anyway, as Alfred saying, you've scarred the victims into your mind. No need for dialogue, you just see his eyes squint. And then you see the horror, which again for me, like slaughterhouse horror, where you see the body mutilation, it's hard to look at, but it does what it needs to do. It creates an impact. So you feel what Batman's feeling, and you want to know, wait, what's going on here? And so years ago, you see this is alluding to the first few cases that Batman had against the Joker. And then we see Alfred, which is... And here he says, how many has this Joker figure already killed? 24. And I expect more bodies at the reservoir. And if you've been reading Batman for a while, the way in this Rebirth universe, the 52 verse or whatever it's called, Scott Snyder alluded to it in The Death of the Family, which is a great read. If you haven't checked it out, get the singles or the trade, because it's an absolutely great read. And so this goes back to, again, their first confrontations. Now check out how how Batman talks about the Joker. He says, his motivations are beyond what I've encountered, not just in Gotham, but in all my training. It feels like an oversimplification to call him insane. I've seen more bodies than I can count, but there's always been a reason behind the murders, whether it's a mean to an end or some kind of thrill in the kill itself. A pleasure they can only get this way. To him, they're just meat. The whole city, this whole world, and the people in it, they're already dead in his eyes. He's just helping them along. And it basically breaks down to how the Joker is able to plot Batman's every move, and likewise with Batman. Batman says something to the extent of, I'm the only one that he sees as alive. And I have a funny feeling that this is going to be going on until the end of time between the both of us. And so after all that heaviness and intensity about the Joker's psychosis and whatever it is that drives him, here's Alfred bringing Bruce back down to earth. He goes, well, Master Bruce, at least you won't be waging it alone. Alfred, You don't think I'd let you fight a murderous nightmare clown for the rest of time on your own, did you? And that alludes back to that Alfred is now gone. And it sucks. It sucks so much. I'm sorry, it sucks. DC, that sucked. And then with that said, boom, we get into the present. So that was a great segue. We get a little bit of levity and then boom, right back into the action. So great writing, followed by what Batman does a lot is action. So we see the Batmobile fly into the Gotham aqueduct. So you see kind of how like the past is coming back to haunt in a sense. And here, these are great beats. We get these newscasters talking about how everyone's assuming that, you know, there's been years of embezzlement found at Wayne Tech helping supply the Batman. And while that's happening, we see all this fighting going on. And here, I've talked about this before where I said I miss how the cast, the creators would sort of implement their names or whatnot into the panels. Now, this isn't implemented directly into the panel, but I like how it's done kind of like a TV show where we see the action, we see some dialogue, and then we see James Tynion IV, writer. Jorge Jiménez, artist. More newscasters. Tomeu Morey, colors. Clayton Cowles, letters. Batman. And then we get another newscaster talking about how the new board of directors are asking Batman to hand over all illegally acquired technology. And then we get Jimenez and Morey doing the cover. Francesco Mattina doing the variant. Dave Wielgos, associated editor. And then after we get this really cool panel of a clown goon carrying this sort of like bazooka looking thing, Batman, created by Bill Finger with Bob Kane. So check this out. 2 pages, all these cool intersections of a little bit of exposition to bring the readers up to speed. Action, what's going on. A little bit of dialogue and exposition. Action, information. It flows. It doesn't feel bogged down. And that's how a comic book should work because it is a visual medium. And the art team and the writer here know how to pace it out very, very well. And so I don't want to give away what's happening there. And then we cut to the Joker in this old rummage like film closet. And this guy's talking, and as he continues to talk, you find out that we are inside the Monarch Theater. And Joker wants to buy it out. And this guy, you feel the pace because Joker is just kind of like they're making casual conversation. And this guy's like, I could swear that I hear laughing down in the theater. He's like, oh, it's just the weather. And it just keeps going. And it keeps going. And he goes, are you sure you don't hear him down there in the theater? It sounds like they're laughing. And then we see Joker pull out a film reel. He goes, you know what? Why don't you join them in the audience? The show's about to start. The show? And I like how they just, you see the terror in this man's face. And then you actually see the audience. And again, that body horror, you know, the mutilation of one's self and how you can't change this because that's what the Joker toxin does. And just, it's always creepy to look at. Even all the way back to Alan Moore when he did the Killing Joke, it's just equally terrifying. And then we see this cat, and he's talking to Commissioner Bullock. There's a police barricade around Wayne Enterprises. And this guy's name is Mr. Graves. I had to stop and think about it for a second. And you feel the tension here between Bullock and Graves because they're talking about my client. He goes, your client's the Joker. We're not going to remove the barricade. He goes, if you guys don't remove it, who bought you all that new equipment? You know, it'd be a shame if we have to take it away. And we could file an injunction. And I love how Bullock, excuse my French here, just looks at him straight up. And they do it in silhouette, kind of like an old detective noir. He goes, you can take that injunction and shove it right up your ass. That is Harvey Bullock. He does not take no poo-poo from anyone. Now, here's where I really enjoy the book. Because Mr. Graves, you see him with his driver. He goes, keep the car running. We'll need to pay the mayor another visit to ensure he's not getting cold feet. And you see that Mr. Graves is the underbroker who is the one that kind of tricked Selina into giving all power of Wayne Enterprises over to the Joker. Punchline kind of tricked her. And here you see, this is what I'm talking about. I'm talking about why I like these panels. The driver is Batman using one of his disguises. Because remember, a lot of people forget that Batman is a master disguiser because he's taught, by people like Houdini or famous stage actors on how to change his appearance. Frank Miller really utilized it in year one when he first does his outing in a crime alley. And he hasn't become Batman yet, but he goes, one noticeable, I can't remember exactly how he says it in the book, but he says like one noticeable indication, and he puts like a fake scar on his face so that way people will get distracted by that if they have to give a police sketch. And so that's really cool that the art team, along with Tynion here, are kind of going back to showing how Batman is a master disguiser. And then what happens here is he leaves to climb his tower, because this is the Wayne Tower, and you see him using his tech. A lot of people, when they write Batman, they forget that, yes, he's a good butt kicker. He knows many forms of jiu-jitsu and martial arts, but he's a master strategist. He's the world's greatest detective, world's greatest disguiser, for lack of better word, because I'm thinking off the fly here. And these panels, look, there's one dialogue balloon. Show, don't tell. We don't need, I see myself climbing, like a little dialogue box saying, I'm climbing up the mountain. I can't, or the building. I can't believe all this is happening. But that would just bog it down. We just see him using his tech to see how many goons are on each level. We see him climbing the window here. This guard's wondering, hey, what's that? Turns his head, he's gone. We don't need any dialogue. The art drives the narrative. So that's something that a lot of people have forgotten in modern comics, and I'm glad to see it back here. Now, here's the first time you ever see Batman go up against Punchline. And I love her. She's a character that should not have worked. A lot of people, would think, oh, this is just a Harley ripoff. It's a clone. But when you see her and Harley fight back, and I don't remember what issue it was like 92 or 93 when she slits Harley's throat, spoiler alert, you see the different kind of madness where Harley could be sweet and bubbly one minute, and then she'd just go off her rocker the next and made her very much kind of a more anti-hero in that sense, depending on how she was feeling that day. As we're Punchline here, she's just cold psychopath. Because Batman enters this cave, because he always has micro caves all over Gotham, and she goes, your friend Mr. Fox outlined the 6 micro caves you snuck into the building. And you see Lucius in the background. And again, look at that body horror, just because you see all these pins in his head, and he's just forced into that Joker grin. And then right in the mid-ground, Punchline looking down, looking at Batman, just seeing the psychoticness and the hatred for him. And she's like, it's like you planned for every type of attack on Gotham City and had a different crisis cave to operate out of on each. This one was your favorite. Want to know why? Want to know why? Read the book. Now right here there's a spoiler I don't want to give away, because I'm assuming that what they're implying here is going to be a sort of a reveal as we go down the line, so I don't want to give that away. So let's skip that. But I do want to reference this, because now I love how the art team just kind of gave her this wide-eyed, unblinking expression, kind of this insane look, and Batman's like, what's happening to me? And she goes, oh yeah, I forgot. I spent almost a year slowly exposing myself to this to build up immunities. I filled your little cave with poison. It's my own blend. She goes, some of the boss's stuff tweaked with a bit of fear toxin and a little bit of venom so it doesn't kill you. Makes the withdrawal a hell of a thing, though. So right there, Batman's just freaking out. Now, this is kind of where the story, I want to end the story. I don't want to give any more away. But man, oh man, after I got done reading this, I was like, man, that comic book felt like a quick read. But it's not. You know why? It's because I enjoyed it. It didn't feel like a chore being bogged down by bloated dialogue or exposition dumps that a lot of comic book writers do tend to do. Not all, but quite a few, where you'll see a panel and it's just dialogue box city. And you're thinking, man, if I wanted to read a novel, I would pick up a paperback or, an actual hardcover. Here, I want to read, obviously, but I don't want to get bogged down on one panel and lose the pace of the story. And that's one thing about comic books being serialized like this, is it has to be paced. And Tynion does a great job, and the art team does an equally good job of slowly pacing it out so that you can enjoy both the story and the artwork at the same time. Now, before we end this review, I do want to make an announcement. This coming Saturday, which is going to be October 10th, Sacred Collectibles, which is a Facebook group that I'm part of, has invited Comictopia to do an online streaming trivia event on their page, which I appreciate very much. And so what we're going to be doing is, you guys answer questions correctly, we'll be mailing out comics as prizes due to, the beer bug virus that's going on right now. So that way we can still interact with the community and just have fun. So I'll make sure to leave a link to the Facebook event down in the description below, and I hope to see you all this coming weekend. It's going to be fun on the bun. We made sure to do some trivia questions based on Halloween stuff and kind of spooky stuff, being October and all that stuff. So make sure to check it out. If you've enjoyed this book, please first and foremost check with your local comic shop and see if you can pick up a copy of it. If you've enjoyed this review, we really would appreciate it if you hit like, share, and subscribe. Helps the club channel more than you could possibly know. And if you wouldn't mind hitting that fancy little punchline bell next to subscribe, that way as we continue to upload content, you guys will get notified. Come to the channel, and we love to hear your feedback and just chat with y'all down in the comments below or on our social media pages, which I'll make sure to leave the links down in the description below. So with all that said, thank you all so much for stopping by. Hope you all have an absolutely amazing day reading, and happy hunting, true believers.